examined at 39 homes. We've looked, done independent testing, and there's been no contamination of the drinking water by those chemicals found.
Well, actually, I have in here, samples that are from all over the country. This one's from Wyoming, Colorado, and then one here from Dimmock. Now, this is tap water, in other words, drinking water. And I'm wondering if you're interested in drinking some of this.
No, and absolutely, I'm not interested in people in Dimmock, and we've stopped it. What I'm doing in Dimmock is absolutely to deal with the problem that you're addressing. It's the very last thing in the world we want anybody to do is to drink it.
There's only 4 households that water is being replaced by.
Those are the households where the problem exists. If there were 10 households, we would require it for 10. If there were 15 households, we would require it for 15. If there's an individual who's had their water contaminated by gas migrating that's not getting their water replaced, I want to know about it. Every single person who has had that occur to us has their water replaced. The bottom line is what matters. We're not going to allow folks who have had their water contaminated as a result of drilling to sit there and have to drink that kind of water. One of the things about being on that side of the camera and this side of the camera, you guys get to, at some level, wash your hands of everything. The folks on this side of the camera have to make some real decisions in the real world. And until somebody comes up with, I guess, the hydrogen economy, I don't have perfect answers to all these things. And I have to make trade-offs. And those trade-offs recognize that you're often taking 2 steps forward and perhaps 1 step back. And that's a lot of the decision-making that goes on right now.
I actually view it in the opposite way, as not a person behind the camera, as a person who lives in Pennsylvania, as a person whose water is in jeopardy. Do you really believe that it's adequate to replace water with cisterns? Can you replace a stream?
Well, replace a stream? Which one do you live on?
Calkins Creek, which is a tributary to the Delaware.
Okay. Well, you see a problem there. I want to know about it. And this is a serious point.
That's where this whole project starts.
Right. That's exactly right. We have a good staff here, and they're out there on the sites. But we're also absolutely eager for the public to let us know about problems. Look. No, I know. Here's the card,
Just a few short months after this interview, the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection suffered the worst budget cuts in history, amounting to over 350 full-time positions being eliminated and 25% of their total budget cut. In the midst of what could be the largest natural gas drilling campaign in Pennsylvania history. How much water could you replace?
So I'm going to show you a little bit here on the map where New York City and New Jersey and Philadelphia's water comes from. What you have up here in the green area, that's the New York City watershed. It's supposedly a protected area, although all of this area on the map that you see here is slated for gas drilling.
The green and white areas you see on the map, that's the New York City watershed and the Delaware River Basin. Altogether, the combined watershed supplies water to 15.6 million people. 6.8 million in New York City, 5.4 million in Pennsylvania, 700,000 in Delaware, and 2.9 in New Jersey. It's the largest unfiltered water supply in the world. The reservoirs were created 100 years ago. Industry has leased hundreds of thousands of acres within the New York City watershed and the Delaware River Basin. That could mean 50,000 gas wells in the combined watershed area. As of spring 2010, there is no drilling in the New York City watershed or the Delaware River Basin. But that could change any day now.
When we look at other planets in the solar system, what are we looking to find? Water. Now, it's not going to be good as New York City tap water, but you're looking on Mars for water, and everyone has these great discussions because it's all about water.
I've been, with this committee for the last 18 years. I was the environmental policy advisor for the city council for many, many years. I'm a trained geologist, and I didn't come all this way and grow all this much older and get this much fatter, just to see everything go away. The whole notion that like adults could sit around a table and try to figure out how we can do this kind of activity inside an unfiltered water supply and make it all work is
How many times do you go into a restaurant and they say, do you want bottled water or tap water? I don't think I've had dinner with somebody in the last 20 years who said, oh, I like the bottled water. People go to a restaurant because they get to have the tap water.
It's beyond ludicrous.
People look forward to it. It's part of their dining experience.
I'm trying to, keep myself composed, but speaking as a geologist, as an environmental scientist, as a policymaker, this is insanity.
And that makes this the #1 environmental crisis that we face in the city.
Although thousands showed up at public comment sessions, the state's Department of Environmental Conservation was unresponsive. There were hours and hours of hearings at City Hall.
New York City must rely on the New York State DEC, but there's a real question of whether the agency is up to the job.
DEC has not proposed a single new regulation.
I look at as our watershed system as our holy grail.
But no one from the state's Department of Environmental Conservation came to the city's hearings.
I want to direct staff to put a call in the DEC Region 2 and to say that all these people are still in the room, and we want someone from DEC in the room.
There were even press conferences with no press.
It would be nice to have reporters today. We don't have them. Maybe this story is not sexy enough. Maybe it's not important enough. Maybe the drinking water supply for 9 million people, it doesn't quite get people's attention.
Where's the press? They're right in there?
They're in the press room, probably.
In the press room. You know, to do a press conference with no press.
I'd heard that the United States Congress was convening a special session on unconventional shale plays, especially how they related to water contamination and Diana DeGette and Maurice Hinchy's Frack Act, a piece of legislation that's 1 paragraph long that simply takes out the exemption for hydraulic fracturing to the Safe Drinking Water Act.
All we have to do is think back, because there was a realization back then of how the kind of drilling that had been going on for more than 20 years was having a negative impact. It was poisoning wells. It was making people's lives very, very difficult and dangerous. As the situation with energy changed, the drilling for natural gas was pressing to be able to do it in the least expensive way so that they could have the highest profits, rather than being honest and open about the kinds of things that they were doing. You have to have more information, more details, more understanding. You have to have the people who are doing it being honest about what they're doing.
Somehow, from my back porch across the nation, I was going to wind up in the halls of Congress and finally have a chance for industry and lobbyists to express themselves in this film.
The Subcommittee on Energy and Minerals will now come to order.
In recent months, the states have become aware of press reports and websites alleging that 6 states have documented over 1,000 incidents of groundwater contamination resulting from the practice of hydraulic fracturing. Such reports are not accurate.
Studies and surveys by GWPC, EPA, and IOGCC over the last 11 years have found no real credible threat to underground drinking water from hydraulic fracturing.
Now, why is hydrofracking raising such concerns? The materials used for hydrofracking don't biodegrade. Once they're in the environment to stay. If just 2% of these hundreds of thousands of wells go south in some way or another, That's thousands upon thousands of incidents, and I invite questions about that.
What Mr. Appleton is doing is searching for a problem that does not exist, because looking at all these other examples in all these states, there has not been a problem with hydraulic fracturing. And I'm proud that I'm supported by the oil and gas industry because they employ a lot of people in my state, and I'm going to stick up for them. And I'm tired of people trying to shut down an industry when they're not educated on the facts. And if you weren't able to do this hydraulic fracturing, how much more would we be dependent on foreign oil and terrorism?
I'm not aware of any documented cases where hydraulic fracturing has failed.
Your time's expired.